Hey guys, welcome back to another exciting episode of YOMO. This is the Year of Magical Learning podcast, and today we have reflection 357. I just have to let Chris introduce it.
Apparently, this is actually one of the most famous literature works of all time. It's called 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. This book won a Nobel Prize in Literature.
No bad.
No, they have a Nobel Prize for Literature, apparently, too.
They have the science and they have the Peace Prize and the economic, but literature? I thought they had the Pulitzer for that.
This book, the last year, John Fosse won for, I don't even know what this is. Yeah, anyway, it doesn't matter. My point being is this book won a Nobel Prize for literature. I don't know when it was, but they did. Anyway, this is a really famous book. Like, I mean, if you Google like top 100 books of all time, this book comes up regularly. You know, it's a very well-known work. It's about.
Is it good?
No, it's not. That's the point of this reflection. So the reflection title of this is Virtue is What You Do When No One's Watching, right? Since it's Oscar season, and I wrote this last year about the same time in Oscar season, this book reminds me of like, you know, those Oscar movies that are buzzworthy every single year that come up and you're like, you know what I'm talking about? Like those movies right around this time of year that starts
I've
like,
never heard of those movies.
You've never heard of
that wins the Oscar.
Yep.
I went, am I like missing something? Why are these movies winning Oscars when I don't even know? I was like, what's the point?
It always piques my interest too. It's like those movies like The Shape of Water. Have you seen that movie before? Oh my God.
I never heard of it.
It's about like some weird fish dude that like gets trapped into a fish tank and falls in love with a human being, and she like breaks him out of his fish jail, and he's like a fish human, like, you know. No, that movie won Best Picture. Then you have movies like No Country for Old Men. I don't know if you ever saw that before.
These movies.
Both of these won Best Picture. So did The Danish Girl, right? They won Best Picture last year.
Never heard of her either.
Last year it was this movie called Everything Everywhere All at Once was the one that won last year Best Picture. Anyway, the point of why I'm bringing these up is it's around this time of year that these movies start to bubble up. Actually, what are the Oscar-nominated movies, you know, this year?
So what is an Oscar anyway?
I don't even know. It's what you get for movies.
What kind of category are we talking about?
Just overall for 2024.
Are these movies that makes a lot of money?
Nope, that's not how Oscars work. It's not about revenue. It's about, you know, the art.
But if the art cannot be appreciated, how can you call it art?
I think that's the whole point. Is like people get so in their head about.
I mean, you have to rank these things to be number 1, number 2, number 3. I mean,
here's the movies that are listed for nominees for Best Picture: The Holdovers, never heard of it. Past Lives, never heard of it. The Anatomy of a Fall,
never heard of it.
Poor Things, never heard of it. Oppenheimer, I've heard of that one. Killers of the Flower Moon, I've heard of that one because that one's with Leonardo DiCaprio and Martin Scorsese. American Fiction, no idea. The Zone of Interest. Barbie, I've heard of Barbie. Maestro.
I haven't watched Barbie.
I haven't seen. I saw the first like 5 minutes of Barbie and then I fell asleep. I haven't seen any. The reason why I'm even sharing this is like, this is the 100 Years of Solitude is this buzzworthy book that's like everybody talks about. Oh, well, this is like one of the top 100 books of all time.
Let people go surfing.
Let people go surfing. They're like, this book will change your life. I mean, it is like, it's just brilliant. This book is brilliant. It's so good. It's like blah 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 blah, and you go, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess, you know, I'll read it. Well, the only reason, you know how I am with fiction books. I'm not a big fan, right? Like I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't enjoy it. I tried to dissect this many times in this journey. So I don't read for entertainment. I read for knowledge, and I like to learn new things. And one of the things I struggle most with about fiction books is it's so abstract and it's so, you know, I don't know. Like my brain can't.
And the thing is, you know, as you keep saying, what's the point?
What's the point? Right?
Get to the
fucking point. Like, I don't care.
Give me some nuggets of wisdom in, hey, you know, something. This guy telling his grandson about the value of an object, the value of a dollar, whatever, you know. You go to the market, you show them this piece of junk, you know, how much you offer, blah, blah. At least give some kind of a nugget of lessons learned somewhere in there. But no, most of them say blah, 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 blah. What is the point? What is the point?
Exactly. This is exactly my thought as well. It's like, I don't want to listen. This is a pretty long book too. Like, I don't want to read or listen to a In this case, it was like I think 16-hour or 18-hour book or something like that, where it's like, oh my God, get to the point. So like, if you ask me right now, go ahead and ask me, Drew, what was this book about?
What's the book about?
I don't remember. It was about something about the Juan and Cardio Buendia and his family. They were all named Buendia. Everybody's named fucking Buendia in this book. Jose Arcadio God, now I gotta think of the name. Yeah, Jose Arcadio Buendia. Every fucking person in this book is named basically Jose Arcadio Buendia, or like, they all named the same fucking name. So it's like his sons were named the same name, and his sons were named the same fucking name. So it's like it's following this family through like apparently multiple generations of the Buendia family line and this little village they created called Macondo, and somewhere in South America. And it's like this fictitious town that, they protected. It's following through all these timelines of different the Buendia family's life and how they all interconnect with each other. And then at the very end, you learn that there was something about time travel going on, where there's some magical thing that this family has the ability to travel and see what was happening and share news back in time to other people. And they all knew what was going to happen in life. And I don't know. It was fucking weird. That's all I can tell you. I don't remember a goddamn thing other than the name of Jose Arcadio Buendia, and every fucking time I heard that name, and I was like, which one are we talking about? Who are we talking about? Whose family is this? Why is this? What is this? I have no idea. The whole entire time I was going, what is happening in this fucking book? I could not figure it out the entire goddamn time. And honestly, it was frustrating. So you're probably wondering, like, why didn't I just stop it? So I did, actually. This is actually a book that I totally stopped. I actually started this book with my wife. She's Hispanic, and I brought this book up to her because it was brought to my attention by, I don't know if you remember that guy that I met on my team while we were out in Boston on a team dinner. I had mentioned he was the guy that introduced me to, or that recommended the Song of Achilles to me. So he's a really, really nice guy. He took a very keen interest because his fiance is a NICU nurse. So, he read my book. He was very interested to learn about Amelia and Luca and all of our experiences. And he was genuinely curious, and, somebody that I thought he's a really good guy. I really enjoyed our conversations and getting to know him. And so naturally I asked him, okay, well, what matters to you? Because like, I would love to learn about your life and what books you would recommend, because he's an avid reader. And he basically only reads fiction books, though, for the most part. So first one he recommended was The Song of Achilles. And after I read that one, I was like, that wasn't that bad. I was like, what else you got? And so he recommended, well, he's like, well, I really liked 100 Years of Solitude. You should check that one out. And I go, okay, all right, fine. So I download this book, and I start, and because it's Hispanic themed, I was like, ask my wife, and she's, literature buff, reading teacher, English language arts principal, like Hispanic woman. I was like, hey, she likes fiction books. I'm like, we should read this together. She's like, yeah, that sounds good. Let's try it, So we both started it as an audiobook, and we got about, I don't know, maybe 10% in, and both of us were like, I don't know if we're going to have enough time to keep going through this book together. I was like, okay, fine. We'll pick another one that we can go do together. Maybe I'll continue on with this and see if this is any good or not. So I got probably about 20 to 25% into the book. This is about a year and a half ago now. Well, no, this is almost 2 years ago now. From the time of this writing, it was about over a year ago since I had started the book. I couldn't do it. This is a waste of my time. And I was like, I'm learning nothing. I was like, I don't want to spend the next 12 hours of my life listening to a book where I'm just, I feel really bad to Teddy, and I was like, but I just don't want to keep doing this one. So I stopped it. It'll be okay. So I left it 25% finished in my Audible account. Every single time I'd buy a new book, I would see this one about 25% finished. And I was like, should I finish it? A couple times I thought, maybe. And I was like, no. So as we got closer to the finish line of Yomo, we're on, 357. I wanted to tie up some loose ends on this journey, because this is, virtue. This book, this journey isn't about learning something every single day, right? Like, this journey is about spending time with my daughter and trying to bring my values to life. And one of my values is integrity, right? And Teddy is a really good person. He really cared about Amelia, my family, our life. He genuinely, was there to listen and care, and I genuinely appreciate his friendship, right? So I thought to myself, look, Teddy's never going to care if I don't finish this book. I mean, I'll care. I told Teddy that I would read this book, and I know that integrity is one of my core values. So I don't want to finish this journey with loose ends and books that I was like, well, I started this one, but if this was a book that I chose on my own and I just didn't like it, I would have given up on it. But like this was something that was tied to somebody else that I felt that it was my word that I gave him, that I said I would do this. This is about, integrity. This is about all those other things, right? That's what this journey is really all about. So I wanted to end this one on the right footing. I buckled down for a weekend and I just churned through this thing as hard as I could. And I swear to you, it was never fun. It was never good. And by the end of it, I was like, thank God this is over. But when I sat down to go write the reflection the next day, it's about virtues what you do when no one's watching, right? Nobody made me do this. Nobody cares if I finished this book or didn't care. I cared, and I cared for my daughter, and that's what living a life of values is to me. You can't just live your life of values publicly, when everybody sees you. It's what you do every single day when no one's watching really is what matters, right? And that's what living a value-driven and a purpose-driven life is to me. So anyway, I'd love to get your thoughts.
Well, I don't know what to say. I mean, in a way, yeah, you want to have integrity, but at the same time, you have to understand that because there's something that you are made to do, and there's something that you're not made to do.
Right.
If you see me beavering and building dam, a fox or a rabbit would look at me like, "Hey, this guy's insane. Why he keep doing the same thing over and over again?" Right? He can't understand it, and so it's not to say that Teddy guy it has any kind of I don't understand you, Teddy. Anything. No, you have to understand that you are who you are, and Teddy is who he is,
Right.
and you gotta respect that. But I think from the perspective of yes, you. What gets me is that you have integrity to Teddy, but you don't have integrity to yourself.
Oh, but I do. Hang on. Like that's it was because this is about bringing values to life. Like this is about don't do it alone. This is about, balance. This is all that's how I get into my flow states, right? So it wasn't like I was eating the frog on this book because I was doing this for other reasons. And that wasn't eating the frog for me. So it wasn't hard for me to finish the book. I didn't learn a lot out of it, but I did learn this lesson that I'm sharing with you. And like that's what this point of this is. So it wasn't not that it was not selfish. Like this was a selfish thing still of me saying, like, look, this is about values. Like if I had no attachment to this in any way, shape, or form, if I wasn't attached to my values on this particular scenario, I wouldn't have done it. If it was just a book that I selected that sucked, I have probably at least 5 to 7 books I either haven't started or had started and haven't finished yet at this point in time. And I don't think that I'm ever going to go back and do them because they're like, I just started this book about the mushroom at the end of the world. It's about mushrooms and how they connect to like capitalism. And I was like, okay, that sounds interesting. And then it really is about mushrooms, like actual shrooms, not like psychedelics, but like a mushroom called matsutake mushrooms. And then she draws like corollaries to how capitalism works in the world off of matsutake mushrooms. And I was like, I can't do this. Like, I was like, I don't know. There was something I'm like, but this isn't, I can stop that one, right? Like, that's fine. I'm cool with that. I'm not going to, there's nothing eating away at me going, I should finish that. Like, I don't care. I cared about this one because it mattered.
Okay. I guess if that's the case, then you care about somebody, right? It's like you say, tying up loose ends. Hey, you have this guy, you ask him for it. It's not like he give it to you.
Right.
Right. You
I
ask him
asked
for
him.
it and you're obligated in a way to give it all of it versus doing it. I guess virtue is what you do when no one's watching it. That's being virtuous. I don't know what else to say, but
I mean, there's so many people out there in this world that we talked about this.
But at the same time, for me, it's like if I ask you to do something and you say yeah, right? But the thing is, I'm not gonna hold you to it in a way that, hey, you said this and now you cannot get it done. Well, I'm gonna hold you to it, right? That's the thing is, in a way, for me, integrity is about intentions, right? So it isn't about, hey, I promise you this, and for whatever reason I can't do it. I can hire my mother to work for me, right? I love her more than anything else in the world, but if I don't make money, then I have to tell her, look, I just can't continue to run the business. I have to shut it down, and by shutting it down, you no longer employ
Right. Yep.
And so to me, that's integrity. Integrity is like, hey, you tell Teddy the truth. That's integrity. Whatever you do, if you find a reason or the why you want to do something for the secondary benefit that you bringing in, I guess I can see that. But as far as integrity is concerned, if you were to recommend me a book and you say, hey, this book is great, right? And if I read it and I say, look, I just don't think it's great because, and I'm not saying not great for you, I'm saying not great for me because from my perspective, I'm this kind of a person. It's going to validate me for you even more because, hey, this is who he is. He's not telling me that, hey, he likes this book or whatever. So you are exposing and showing your true self to another person, and that is what the meaningful connections is about. So to me, integrity is about doing the intentions. Intentions say, okay, I
doing what
intend
you
to
said
read
you're
it.
going to, like, I mean, this is.
But you say you're gonna read it, but you said you couldn't finish it because I just don't see.
I couldn't finish it for the content of the book. I could finish it for other values that I wanted to express. And that was the point of this, right? Sometimes you can do things that you don't want to do and you can morph it into something you do want to do by
Right,
leaning on
I understand that. And there are certain trades you have to make
right
for the benefit of your core values because your core value wants something, right? And then certain trade you have to make. I'm not saying you can't, you don't, but my point is that I can't say, I agree or disagree. I'm just saying there is a little gray area in terms of what makes it something that is right for you, but not for me. And this is what I'm saying is from your perspective, I'm not saying you're wrong, right? But from my perspective, because I don't know the ins and out of your meaningful relationship with this guy, Teddy.
I mean, it's not much. I mean, I really only know
from my perspective, I don't see the value or the value that you weigh the value from having to read something that you don't have an interest in terms of the content to reading it for the part of, hey, what is it that what is it you're trading for?
Right. So now we're spending time with my daughter, and that's when we get into a flow state of living our values, right?
And at the same time, you could read other books and be in flow state with your daughter. So that's not, to me, that's not like it has to be this way. My point is that we're talking about the backhand, right? You have to work on the backhand. I'm saying, hey, why you work on the backhand? You don't need to work on the backhand. You work on your forehand. Do something that's exciting.
If you maybe read fiction books all day,
I'm saying that you say, oh, I'm doing this for my daughter. I'm doing this for integrity. I'm saying that is not the only reason, the only way you can do that. You can do it in 100 million other ways. I'm just saying is you are making a reason why you have to do this, right? To me, that's like what you're saying to me in the past is I'm doing this 365 and I have to do blah, blah, blah. And I keep telling you, Chris, who's putting a gun to your head and making you do this? This is what you're doing.
It was a selfish thing. I selfishly did
justifications for the reason why you done it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I deliberately did a selfish act for myself to make myself.
But hey, I'm doing the 365 for selfish reason because I want to spend time with Amelia.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But at the same time, is you didn't have to be a marathon. You can still spend time with Amelia. That's not the point. The point is that this thing where you're doing, right? To me, the benefit is more of a fluff than anything else because I don't see it. Maybe I don't see it because from my perspective, I don't have the background you have, and I don't see it. I'm not saying that it isn't there. I'm just saying I don't see it from my perspectives.
And you're not supposed to. The point of the whole reflection is like your values of what you care about and what brings meaning and purpose to your life is only ever going to be something that only I will understand why I got value out of this, right? And no one else ever is going to know that I read this book. Well, I guess they will now because we're talking about it and I wrote about it, right? But no one else is going to know when I did this. Like, I wasn't doing it for some performative reason. I wasn't doing it for anything other than I knew that this was something that was important to me to fulfill my obligation for. And that was it. Really, that was point blank period. That was it. And I did it selfishly because of that. But at the same time, I don't expect you to understand that. And I don't expect anybody to understand that. I don't want anybody to understand that. That's exactly like what you always talk about. I don't care if you understand it. Like, I know that I need to do this, and I know that it's important to me. And whether you're watching me or not watching me, or whether we're having a conversation or not, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go damn, and if I want to show off these works to other people, sure, I will. I got a damn, and I can't tell you that I got a damn and then not go damn. That's hypocrisy. That's what we've talked about. Is probably the worst thing you could do in this world is to say, well, I really value balance, but then I am manic, psychotic all day long, running around like a chicken with my head cut off. My heart is beating out of my chest, and I'm, can't sleep, and I eat horribly, and I, never do anything to take care of myself. And you're like, well, you say balance is important to you, and you're like, I don't think that's true. Like, like I could say, well, it is true. I promise you. True, it is true. And you're going to go, I don't see it, right? But that's okay. I don't care. My point being is I care because this is important to me, right? So that's why I wrote about this. And that's what I learned from this one is to no one cares but yourself, right?
Yeah, no one should have to care. I mean, that's the point of, like I said, if you are a beaver and you build dams all day long, everybody else is going to think you're crazy just because they don't understand. And that's the point. People must stand. Virtue is what you do when no one's looking. And so I guess from the reflection, it's a fitting title, a fitting reflection. I see what I see, and you see what you see. Your point is that you seeing something out of values I don't see because I'm from different perspectives. Okay. And that is the point of doing things for your own sake and not for anyone else's. Because you can't explain it. There's certain thing that you do, it just doesn't make sense to people. And you say it shouldn't make sense. It should not make sense to other people because they're not you.
Agreed. So with that out of the way, I think we can shift this conversation to a fun ending here. What am I missing about these like super artistic books and movies? Like, what is fucking wrong with me? That I just don't get it. Like, I mean, you sound like you're the same thing as me. Like, I just don't get it. Like, what am I not? Do I need to be a lion or a cheetah to like understand,
I think we assume that we have the measuring stick to measure what it is. That's why I was asking you, what is an Oscar? What are you judging on? You're judging on what elements? I don't know that. And I'm not saying it's not worthy of an Oscar. I just don't know what an Oscar is. I don't know what a Pulitzer Prize criteria for scoring is. I don't know what a Nobel Prize for Literature scoring criteria matrix or whatever it is.
And what is the criteria? Like, I actually read a book about the Oscars with my wife, and it was about the history of the Oscars. And like, there is no criteria. This is literally a bunch of people that are,
I mean, if you go and let's say you go and a bunch of us supposed to be judges and we sniff some shrooms, right? We're gonna have different different takes on what is a good movie versus what isn't a good movie from the perspective of an outsider. Because when you look at an Oscar, isn't an Oscar like other actors voting on the movies?
There's an academy of motion pictures that you get admitted if you're of a certain prestige or particular writer or somebody that's had enough XYZ jobs or titles in Hollywood, and then you get to vote on Oscars. So it would be like if in order to qualify to talk about who is the best tennis player in the world each year or the top 5 tennis players in the world each year subjectively, you had to have won a major title or something like that.
So Oscar, to become a judge of an Oscar, right?
Not totally, but there is other ways to get into.
If a bunch of nerds goes in and vote for the best jobs, for example, it's not going to work. It's just because you say, hey, this guy is the best of this. This guy is, whatever. It is inside of that circle. So only that circle understands what it is. And so I think if you're outside, you wouldn't know. It seems very odd to us as an outsider looking in. And, from that perspective, it is what it is. But at the same time, you and I don't give a crap about the Oscars.
Right. Like, I watched a movie like Top Gun, right? The Top Gun Maverick, is one of the only movies I've seen in the past probably 5 years in the theaters. And I was like, man, that was a good movie. I walked out of there going like, that was fucking great. I enjoyed it. I had a good
They're
experience.
talking a language that we understand. If you're talking
Right.
about another language, that somebody else is speaking in the Milanese language, for example,
And it really is.
and then they understand it and they say, oh, that that one-eyed guy is the perfect model, the perfect type of perfect body, whatever. I say, okay, if you're a monkey, then you're going to vote this monkey gal the sexiest. But to us, like, I don't care.
I mean, if you're a coder, right, you know what a great coder's code looks like, versus a bad one, right?
Like, I can tell, but the judgment that anyone ever do is very subjective. It can never be objective.
I mean,
if I am like 5'6", anyone who is 6 foot, they're too tall. If you're 6 foot and everybody is like 5'8", you're too short. Perspectives. But at the same time, on the flip side, is we don't care. I mean, because from my perspective and your perspective, if you're doing company, right, and you're talking about improving and self-improvement and stuff, I'll argue you all day because I understand what you're saying. But you're talking about like, hey, the Oscars, like, okay, do what you do. I don't care.
Agreed.
I don't care. I don't do Comic-Cons.
Well, but like, who is it for though? Like, if you're giving awards, is it just for the people in the industry, or is it for other people to know, hey, this is what good quality?
To me, this is where I draw the line, though. You do what you do, but don't expect me to appreciate you and get mad because I don't understand it. This is where I think sometimes
I don't expect you to not get mad if you don't understand it. You can't say.
This is the reason why we have a big problem with philosophers. Okay,
Agreed.
because they enforce their ideals onto you, and so this Oscar guy said, "Oh, I won Oscar, but the title, blah blah blah,
I'm the best.
I'm the best. You don't appreciate the great art, whatever, right?" And they say, who gives you the right to say, like, you like your art, that's fine, but that's not my art. Right. Don't like force your ideas onto me, right? This is where these guys get to the point where, oh, I put up this Oscar, this bunch of people wins a bunch of Oscar, and I want you to, give them money or blah blah blah, whatever it is, hey, I have the entitlement, right? No one's entitled to shit, okay?
Can you name me one great literature that you've ever read in your life that you actually liked?
That's gonna be hard.
Has there ever been anything that you were forced to read, whether you're in school, out of school, like books like this, where you're like, well, everybody says that, The Catcher in the Rye is really good, like, so I got to read The Catcher in the Rye, and, like, is there ever been
to be honest, I've never liked any of those, because even the literature, they say it was good. It wasn't. I mean, it's always it's always like some kind of like, hey, I don't show you the good side, and then the negative side, I just bear it down. You're talking about like people make me read like Lord of the Flies and blah blah blah. It's a bunch of BS. It's like, this is how human culture. They talk about the human natural instinct to become in a hierarchy and survival with all a bunch of kids, blah blah blah. To me, it's like, no, it's not. It is your opinion that that book is good, and you force onto me and make me read it in high school English, and then everybody said because they don't know shit. I mean, they dumb as fuck, stupid. And then they follow the same thing, and they take the fucking book and they shove down my throat. To me, that's what I have a problem with. Is you do your art, but your art doesn't mean art to me. Because my art is my art, right? So to me, that's a fine line. I respect you to do your own thing, right? If this is among the writers and the actors guild, whatever, you stay in it. Just don't come bring it out and say, hey, artist, look at how great this guy is. He's the best writer, blah blah blah, right? Well, if I don't agree to it, I don't agree to it. You can't say, hey, you don't appreciate your art. The art is blah 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 blah. No, I mean, you look at me and I say about Beaver my stem, and you say blah 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 blah. How's that fair? Right. So to me, that's where I draw the line. This is to me is the reality. Reality is everybody is unique and everybody has their own circles. You stay in your circles. As long as you don't influence another person's circle, you have no problem. If you do influence my circles, I will have a problem, right?
Especially, gosh, art is so subjective anyway.
And so it's life.
Yeah, who are you to say
You look at my life, people say, hey, that's a boring fucking life. You don't do shit. What is there to enjoy?
That's what you
say,
right.
You say, enjoy life, but you don't do shit. How do you enjoy life? At least go and have some drink, you do some weeds and whatever, right?
Right.
That's your definition. That's fine. Don't ask me, right? I have a different definition. I have a different measuring stick. You have different measuring. This is exactly what we're saying about this particular reflection is your values is different, and your virtues of your values are completely your own. It's not mine, and you can't force it onto another person. But the problem a lot of people once they get together and it becomes this thing, it goes to the head for some reason.
Yeah.
And they start telling you about, hey, you shouldn't do that, or people come say, hey, you destroying the world because you're eating meat and blah blah blah, right?
Right. That's I think that's a great final thought for me on this, because I know you got to go. Your values, just because you think that they're important, and they should be important to you. They are important to you. That is your values, right? Like, and that's fine. But just because they're important to you does not mean they are important to somebody else. You should never shove that on somebody else.
Exactly.
To what you were kind of getting at, I think, with the whole Oscars and Academy and Grammys, subjective awards out there, people do try to put values around it, and they say that this is what objectively, this is the value that brings art out that we should all be focused on.
That's like, to me,
it's really wrong. It actually fucks with your head a little bit, because you're like, wait a minute. Like, I didn't enjoy any of this. Like, this is not a Beaver Must Dam movie that I watched. A Beaver Must Dam movie that I watched is like, Kung Fu Panda. I'm like, oh my God, this is the best. Like, this is amazing. Like, it's hilarious. I'm cracking up. And this panda's doing Kung Fu. And it's like, this is awesome. And he's funny, And then I watch The Danish Girl, and I'm like, what the fuck? What's happening? This is horrible. It's slow. I don't get it. This isn't impactful to me. Like, I'm bored. Like, like, I am not into this in any way, shape, or form. But then you tell me that that's because I'm not this. You're not sophisticated.
You're not suave.
You don't understand the cinematography.
You are the bottom rung of society. You should be put out of your misery.
Right. Like,
we should exterminate you like we did the Jews. Exactly. This is where it becomes like really, really like idiotic. It's like,
right.
I mean, why do you think the World War II happens?
It was a war of values. I mean, it was really. Like, yeah.
Why do you say, hey, we're the Germans, so we are the Aryan race. We want to wipe out the inferior race, right?
We know what it looks like, to be on the right path. Everybody should follow us, and if you don't, we'll just make you.
But that's my problem is, it affected the Jews based on these guys' entitlement. The feeling of entitlement. They think they are entitled to the earth, right? And so they are wiping off 6 million Jews. Okay, so it really affects you. So this is where I have a problem with, because fine, do your art, but don't force it on another person, because eventually it goes to become this disastrous, like the World War II. The reason why all these people get slaughtered in the gas chamber is because they were convinced that these guys are the inferior race and the low life of Earth.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the best moral of this reflection that I can think of, is like, you're spot on. Your values are your values, and they should only be that. And that is what a Beaver Must Dam means, right? Like, that is exactly what we mean by that. You should not ever impose that on somebody else, ever.
The hypocrisy that we're talking about.
It's almost as bad as that. Like, I think it's worse if you claim that this does matter to you and then you don't do it, but it's secondarily.
And then you impose your ideas onto others, just exponentially double it.
Right. So the moral of the story is get rid of award shows, and good God, like, I swear to God, if somebody tells me that a book is good.
I mean, the award show is for the actors, by the writers in that circle. I could care less about Oscar. Don't put it on TV for me, Well, you're taking away my other good shows.
I have to say, though, too, like, I'm torn on this final thought. I want people to recommend to me books to read, right? Like, I love that. Like, I really do. But I also know that if you don't know me and you don't know my values and you don't know what I care about, and you recommend a book to me that is not in line with that, then that's on me for accepting that, from somebody that I know that doesn't know me good enough, right?
What I'm saying is, no, this is where there's a gray area, right? And I'm telling you is I don't know the answers. I'm just saying there is a gray area because you have to be true to yourself, but at the same time, you have to be able to take a chance and explore and give that person, hey, like this Teddy guy, right? He gave me this one book, it's good, but the second book doesn't have to be the same, and you have to tell him the truth. Hey, that it's not for me.
Yeah, I mean, he would have been totally fine with that. I mean,
to me that exactly, because he isn't going to say, well, I expect you to love it like I love it, right? Because it's
I'm not you.
It's understandable, but at the same time, it's a clear understanding of who this person is and who you are. And to me, that is more closer to the integrity and the virtue that we're talking about versus like, hey, I did it because I say I would do it. I say I will look into it. I will say I will attempt it. But once I attempt it, this is what I found out. To me, that is more authentic than, okay, I told you I did it. Now I had to do it, even though I didn't like it that much, right? To me, that's kind of like bending your virtues for the sake of living up to the expectation that he thinks, that you think he thinks. Not even he probably don't think that way. If you think he think, right?
Right, exactly.
You think that he think he expects it, but he at the same time, in reality, he probably say, hey,
I don't care.
This book is how I feel. Most people don't like it because blah blah blah. There is something in there that reminds me of my past youth, and because of that, I can relate. But everything else, I couldn't relate. That's probably like some reality that he has, and then you go out there and you go, well, I told him I would read it, so I will honor my word and I will read it.
Right.
I agree. To me, that's a gray area, because the thing is, I think it's applaudable for you to follow through, but at the same time you can be better because I say, hey, I tried it, right? This is what I feel. Am I missing something?
Yeah, I mean,
because that is the real way to explore whether or not the red thread is real or it's not, and then you have to give that chance. But if you say, if I continue to honor the word, right, you still would honor the word because your intention. If your intention isn't, then you have broke that virtue of integrity. But if your intention is, I want to know, I want to learn, but when I learned, I found out that it wasn't aligning with who I am, then you need to say, hey, this is the new information I found out.
Yep. No, I think you're spot on with that. That's what I would call in the sales world an upfront contract. I should have said it with Teddy. I should have said, hey, look, I appreciate the recommendation. I think you're a great guy. I really appreciate you taking the interest in learning about my family and my life. Understanding, he told me like, hey, nonfiction isn't really my thing. I really like these kind of books, but I mean, I'll give you a recommendation, right? Because like, this is what matters to me. Understanding that, I should have said an upfront contract right out the gate of like, I will attempt this just because I would like to, see if I can get any value out of this, what you see out of this. But if I feel like
that's
the
truth, right? And that's the truth, right? Because you saying, hey, look, I don't know what it is. I'm seeking values.
I'm willing to go explore
this may have values, and I'm willing to explore that. That's all you're saying.
Yep.
And to me, that is more honest than living up to I will read.
I didn't say that up front, and then on the back end of it, I was like, well, shit, like this is what actually played out. I didn't find any value.
You misspoke. You weren't impeccable with your words.
Agreed. I caught myself in my own trap of basically of going, well, shit, like, I kind of got to finish this now just because like this is the right thing to do. Versus if I went back to Teddy a year later and I would have been like, hey, just so you know, I spent, I did 100 Years of Solitude and I only got through about 25%. I didn't really like it. It sat there and I just didn't want to finish it. I never came back to him and I never brought it up again. Next time I saw him, I never said, hey, like, didn't read the book. He's not going to ask me, but like, I would have known that I didn't honor that. Right. And it would have been weird as fuck if I would have came back a year later and said, hey, just so you know, I didn't finish that book and I'm not going to because it doesn't align with my values. He would be like, that's fucking weird, man.
You call that ball out, hits the line or not. Well, you call it as you, and you come back and say, well, I wasn't sure when I called it. I mean, this is owning up to your actions. And so to me, that is more honest and appreciated by the other party than for you to say, hey, I didn't like it, but I did it anyway. And I would look at you and say, hey, you didn't have to do that. Well, you're kind of weird, Chris. I mean, what are you thinking? I would actually be more glad that you told me the truth about the versus the you trying to, kind of
force it
plow
in,
through.
right,
Hey,
right.
no,
Yeah,
thank
you
you.
don't need to
So
do that. Like,
it feels weird. If I
does.
did it feels weird because I don't want to impose anything on you either.
Right. This is
And
a funny thing
that's
that we're
my
talking
point.
about.
He isn't.
Yeah. If he was on this call, I think he would, because I know how I would feel if I was the third party in this call that we're being talked about. I would have immediately said, I don't give a fuck. Like, whether you read it or you didn't read it, like that. I offered something out to the world. It was up to you to either take it or not take it, like that. That's fine. I would never give a shit. But that's kind of the moral of the whole story. Is like, I cared, but I could have done it better, and I could have done it the way that we talked about in retrospect, and that's how we should go forward with it. Like, if you should know your values, and you should be able to say that up front versus having to like force it in on the back end of something and make it make sense. Like, make it make sense on the front end. Don't make it make sense, down the
Because
road.
you're forcing it to make sense when it doesn't make sense.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, I know you got to go. We're over time, so I will let you get on your way for the night. And thanks everybody for joining. The question we can leave for you all is, who are you living your values for? So kind of what we're talking about. Do it for yourself, right? Like, don't ever do it for somebody else, and don't ever live anybody else's values. Thanks for joining, and we will see you tomorrow.
Good night.